Okay, everyone, let's do some videos understanding and getting more familiar with the normal curve. A lot of things in real life come out to be approximately normal, and that's one of the things I've been trying to teach you over the last several days. But anyways, let's get to some problems. The more you do these guys, the more you'll understand the normal curve, okay? That's the bottom line. Here we go. So this was number 20 on a recent worksheet. This was actually on Friday's worksheet. If you were here Friday, hopefully you were. And as you can see right here, they did give us the graph, the quick sketch. And they're telling us that what we're looking at shaded here is 95% of the data. Now, immediately, guys, hopefully you still remember when I did my lesson on the normal curve. And basically the lesson went like this. Whatever the mean is, generally it's right in the dead center of our normal curve. And if I go one standard deviation in either direction, both directions actually, right? One standard deviation to the left, a negative standard deviation, to the left, one standard deviation right. This right here is 68% of the data. 68%. Okay, it's the empirical rule, as we call it. If I go out two standard deviations from the center in either direction or both directions, all of this in here now, including the 68%, totals up to 95%. Finally, if I go out three standard deviations each way, from here to here, I essentially have now, if I do everything including the red and the blue, all the way out to the extremities of the green there, three standard deviation each way, that is almost everybody. That's 99.7% of the data, and that's called the empirical rule, okay? Well, anyways, let's get to the actual question here. They're asking for the mean and the standard deviation. We have to be a little clever here. So here's a blown up version of it. First of all, if the mean is in a dead center, and this curve here, guys, is symmetrical or very close to symmetrical, okay? Well, couldn't I just simply find the middle value? If I took 92, added 78, divided by 2, because whenever we average two numbers, you guys should know we find the middle of those two numbers. So we end up getting what? 170 divided by 2 is 85. We just figured out the mean of our distribution is 85. Now notice, mathematically here, the distance from there to there is 7, just like the distance from there is 7. So that in itself proves that x, being 85, is the correct value. It is the middle value, correct? Now, if you remember what I talked about, sorry about that little mess up there, so we know the mean again is 85. That's the middle value, correct? Okay. Now, if you remember what I talked about right here about the empirical rule, 95% is two standard deviations each way. So therefore, if I just simply split this in half, that would be 1, 2 that way, wouldn't I? If I split it in half, of course, the other way, that would be 1, 2 standard deviations that way. In essence, all I have to do is divide 7 by 2, and I know my standard deviation is 3.5. 3.5 each jump here, right? Each standard deviation is 3.5 units. So my standard deviation, therefore, is 3.5. The mean was 85. And we are done with problem 21. Pause the video if you need to. Okay. Let's do one more here. This was number 22. Again, I'm going to do this graph on the next screen. We are told that our mean is 106, our standard deviation 2. So the middle of our graph is going to be where the mean is, 106, right? If the standard deviation is 2, I'm going to count 2 in each direction. So this is 108 to here. This is 110 to there. This right here is 112. Let's go 2 in the negative direction, standard deviation. This would be 104. Another 2 backwards would be 102. And this, of course, would be 100. So there's our setup. We're ready to answer questions. So we did A. We drawed and labeled the normal curve. Let's do B. What percent of the boxes have more than 104 bolts? Well, here is 104, correct? Now remember, if I go 1 each way, that's 68%. So each interval here is 34%, correct? 34 and 34, 68. So the first standard deviation from the mean basically is 34% each way of all the data, okay? If, remember, I go out 2 standard deviations each way, that totals 95. So let's do a quick math here. 95% minus the middle 68% would be what? 15 minus 8 is 7. 27, right? So let's divide 27 by 2, 13.5. That means I have another 13.5% there, another 13.5 there. Again, if I total up the 13.5, the 34, 13.5, I will get 95%. Make sense? Let's do it one more time. We know that if we go 3 each way, that's 99.7%. So let's minus the 95%, the middle 2 intervals each way. The middle 4 intervals in total is 95, right? And we get what? 4.7% left over. Let's divide by 2. That would be 2.35%, correct? So what we just figured out, guys, is that this last third interval from the second to third standard deviation interval is 2.35% there and 2.35% there. Now we're actually ready to answer the questions. If we want to know what's more than 104, well, isn't 104 right here? More than 104 would be, now guys, I'm going to scribble then erase. That would be from here all the way to the highest value, right? Everybody understand that? So what I'm going to simply do is, if I'm going from here to the highest value, all I need to do is add 34, which is 68, with 13.5, and with the remaining 2.35. Okay? This is going to give me a very good estimate according to the empirical rule. And let's add our zeros to even it out. So let's see, that's 5, 8, 11, 2 is 13, 1. So our answer is, unless I made a mistake, 83.85%. All right, let's do the next one. What is more than 110? Well, guys, isn't 110 right here? And we just figured out that that's roughly 2.35% of what's left over on the high end. Let's do 108. Now this time they're doing less than 108. Now let's be clever about this one. Isn't 108 one above? So we're going to add 34, 13.5, 2.35. So unless I made a mistake with my math earlier, this is going to have the same percent value as question B. We're just going in the opposite direction. Again, less means this value right here and below, right? We already totaled it up to be 83.85%. All right. What about 100? We want less than 100 to be more exact. Well, isn't 100 way down here, guys? And now the only thing I'm missing out, and I'm not going to make my video any longer. Remember, from 100 to 112, isn't that 99.7%? So again, let's do this again. If I did a quick sketch, guys, do you agree from the mean, if I go 1, 2, 3 each way, 1, 2, 3 each way, this is where the 100 is, right? Up here is where the 112 is. All of this in here is 99.7%. What we have to tabulate now, to be more precise, is over here and over here is that meager remaining 0.3%, right? So what's less than 100 over here is 0.3 divided by 2, which is 0.15%. Okay? So that would be the answer for 100. Less than 100 is 0.15%. Less than 0.2%. Very, very tiny, right? Okay, let's see if we can do better on F. They want us to go between 102 and 112. Well, does everyone agree that 102 is right here? It's the 34 degree intervals. It's the, what was it, 13.5 degree interval here, right? It's the 13.5 degree interval there as well. We're going up to 112, correct? 112 is 3 above. So we also got to add this interval in here to 2.35%. So we're just going to add those up. Okay? So 34 and 34 is 68. 13.5 and 13.5, 27, we know that's 95. All we have to do is add that meager 2.35%. So our answer is 97.35%. Let's do one more, 100 and 106. Notice, guys, 100 is here. 106 is there. Wait a minute, let me make sure I get it right. It's actually the mean or the middle. So all we're really doing, guys, follow the green here. All we need to do is add this percentage interval with that percentage interval, 100 to 106, with this interval, right? So basically, all I have to do is add 34, or if I'm clever, check this out, guys. All I'm really doing is adding this part right here, which is half of the 99.7, right? So really all I have to do is take 99.7 divided by 2. Again, you're allowed to use a calculator. I'm just going to do it old school here. We're almost done, guys. Let's see here. What percent would that be? 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 9 is 18. So it looks like I get 49.85 once I finish that up. So doing the math, guys, unless I made a mistake, 49.85%. Now, guys, hopefully most or all of it made sense to you. The only thing I may have messed up on right in here, I may have missed out on that little 0.3% on problem C or D, okay, and B as well. But hopefully you practice with this a little bit, guys, and study this video more than once. Again, there may be 1 or 2 silly mistakes in there, but the bulk of the information is accurate. It's all based on the empirical rule. If you have any questions, please ask. We will just do it over in class. And I promise you it'll take 10 minutes or less to discuss it one more time thoroughly. Okay, guys? But hopefully you got the general important information out of this. See you in class. All right? See you in class. Know the empirical rule.